Oh. Oof. What a nightmare. With last year's now conclusion, I found myself pondering the good and the bad times we've had as MMA fans. We've had knockouts, we've had retirements, hell, we've even had embarrassments. There truly was a lot to unpack in this last year. But you see, it was during this mental digestion where one thing truly stuck out to me. It was a singular technique, one that gave us some of the biggest fight-ending moments of 2025. So today we'll be discussing that technique, a technique that could possibly change the landscape of MMA forever. The spinning elbow has shocked the MMA world recently by taking out high-level fighters such as Gene Silver, Jeff Neal, and even the great Aaron Pico. Well, okay, maybe some of them weren't that high level, but nonetheless, lately we've seen Hellbow after Hellbow, and we've seen it in all its glory. This last year, it gave us some of the most vicious TKOs we've ever seen. And so today I thought it would be fun to showcase and discuss the best spinning elbow TKOs, and even break down why it works, and the origin of where it came from. And to do that, firstly we need to ask a stupid question. What is a spinning elbow? The spinning elbow is a versatile technique that can be used moving forwards or backwards, and it's a move that usually relies on a few key things. Number one would be pressure. By using an opponent's pressure against them, a fighter can lead overly aggressive opponents into a charged up spinning elbow, similar to like the attack that Paul had in Tekken 3. The reason pressure is so important is because once an MMA fighter knows that he or she is in front of an overly aggressive opponent, they can start setting them up for all kinds of techniques, this being one of them. And this logic applies even more so if the opponent is one to keep unintelligently moving forward. You know those fighters that can just tank shots? They have like 9,999 defense, they got the crimson chin, and they can just walk forward without any care for repercussions. This type of fighter can be put down with the spinning Beyblade attack. The next thing a spinning attack relies on is number two, distance. The distance in which a fighter throws this technique is right inside the pocket. Reach inside your pocket right now and you might feel a few things. One being your phone, maybe your house keys, hell, even your wiener if you're hung enough. But mostly what you should find in there is the spinning elbow of doom, because that's where you'll find it. Right inside the pocket. You see, this is a technique that can't be landed from distance. If someone charges up this bad boy from a distance, you'll see that shit a mile away. The spinning elbow can only really be landed when you and your opponent's momentum collides. This is where distance comes into play. Let's say you're backed up against the octagon fence with nowhere to go, and you have this fighter who's overly aggressive and they keep pressuring towards you. Ugh, how did I get myself in this situation? My footwork failed, I keep biting on feints, and now I'm trapped against the side of the octagon. What will I do? There's only one option. I need to pull out Old Reliable. You see, with all the pressure we mentioned earlier, you can sometimes throw this technique as a bit of a Hail Mary to get someone the fuck off of you. But at the same time, you can also be slept by this technique. Now, without perfect distance management, throwing a spinning elbow can often be very telling. You will generally never see a great MMA fighter hit by this technique, or a spinning attack of any kind. You see, if you throw this blind, without any feints, and without an attempt to suppress it, you can see it coming from a mile away. It's kind of like an ultimate in like a League of Legends or a Dota 2. You save that shit up, you charge it, and then you dominate. You don't just get to continually use it over and over again. But if we look at the spinning elbow more critically, and we break it down even further, what do we see? The spinning elbow attack lands from behind the guard, not through it. And the reason why it lands so well and so often is because when a fighter turns their back for a split second to throw it, it often lands because the opponent's brain goes, oh look, they're disengaging. But wait a minute, what's that? And then all of a sudden, by the time the elbow comes around, their brain hasn't registered that it's there. Accompany this with a usual pairing of a high guard, and you're about to be sent to the Shadow Realm. And touching more on that high guard and why this works so well is because the modern MMA defense is built for jabs, crosses, hooks, and kicks. It's not really built to protect you from spinning elbows of doom. As I said before, usually if someone's applying a lot of pressure and landing in high combination, you'll see most fighters take a high shell to protect their chin. But this not only limits their eyesight, but their mobility. And that's when you can end up on the other end of a highlight reel. Now, another positive of this technique is the risk to reward ratio. This makes it hard for a fighter to defend against due to the power coming in their direction. But not only that, it's also just a hard technique to counter in general. Imagine you're fighting and you go for a clinch, or you come to take a nice shot to the body, and all of a sudden, a spinning elbow of death wings past your head. You feel the wind across the top of your balding scalp. Bald, bald, bald. Now again, obviously if this technique is spammed over and over again, it can eventually be read and it can eventually be used against you. Again, rest in peace, Bark Bark Man. But at the same time, it's very hard to counter this technique. You have to be at a distance where you can dodge it and either shoot a takedown, or you need to be in close enough where you can get a hold of that person and block their rotational force. But at the same time, even if you know this technique is coming, other than shooting a takedown and grabbing someone's back, you don't have too much to worry about. I mean, not only are your hands and elbows usually up during the movement, you're also moving in a range where someone can't really land big strikes on you. They can't land any teeps, they can't land any power kicks to the body, and due to the spinning nature and the threat of the attack, you don't really want to throw at the same time. You really just want to make it miss so that you can counter afterwards. And now as we're breaking it down further and further, you can start to see why it's had so much success as of recent. But now that's enough of the technique breakdown itself. Let's change up the pace a little bit, and let's hop in my tuk-tuk time machine. The origin of the Hellbow. The origin of the spinning elbow comes from a country most known for its tourism, beautiful combat, and ladyboys. Yes, that's right, Thailand. You see, long before the UFC, the spinning elbow was already ending fights in Thailand. You see, one of the most feared techniques was called the sock clap, also known as the spinning back elbow. The technique was named this because that's the sound it made when it hit you in the back of the head. Okay, no, it wasn't, but it sounded cool to me. So that's what we're running with. Come here, I'm gonna give you a fucking sock clap. Now, the spinning elbow most likely emerged somewhere between the 1300s and the 1700s. And it was during this period that I can't pronounce. Ayutthaya Kingdom period. That one. In this time period, Thailand was in a constant state of warfare. They were battling against Burmese invasions, border skirmishes, and internal power struggles. Martial arts in this time period weren't like we know it today. It wasn't fun in a tourist bar in the form of knocking out your friends or random drunk people. Now, Muay Baran wasn't a single style. It was a collection of different regional combat systems used by different soldiers. You see, fighters would wear rope bindings on their hands, also known as card chuek. As I said, in this time period, they didn't have gloves, they didn't have rounds or referees, and they didn't even have ladyboys. And because of this, fights usually happened in crowded locations. You know, fights usually happened in uneven environments. And that meant that long-standing combinations were useless. Now, you might argue that in close-hand combat, it would be better to use your fists. But with lots of fighting and not much space to work in, the last thing you want is a broken hand. And that is where the spinning elbow was invented. Now, you might be asking me, Shoga, why the elbow specifically? Or you might even be saying, no, I didn't ask that at all. Well, you see, in Muay Baran logic, the elbows made a lot of sense. Elbows, for starters, don't break easily. Not only do they cut skin, they also work in armor gaps, and they're effective even when you're exhausted. You see, elbows were used for years with great success. But the spinning element then amplified that by adding rotation and a powerful surprise on the end of it. Now, in my research online, I couldn't find the first ever spinning elbow. I know, upsetting. What we do have is Muay Baran manuals. And these manuals depict rotational elbow attacks. Not only this, there were also oral traditions that were passed down through Crew Muay. That's basically the equivalent to a Muay Thai master. We also had similar styled elbows appearing across multiple regions in this time period. And with all that consistency, we come to a conclusion that this was no mistake. This technique was invented. But now fast forwarding into the future, what do we see? The date is March 1st, 2014, and we are watching Dong Huyun versus John Hathaway. The fight was taking place at the Cotai Arena in Macau, China. At this point in time, the UFC was trying to grow MMA in Asia. And after seeing the success of the Ultimate Fighter format in other regions, the UFC desperately needed a fighter to pull through. And that's exactly what the stun gun did. In round 3, with a perfectly timed spinning back elbow, Kim set the world ablaze and landed himself the first ever spinning elbow TKO in UFC history. But on that day, what Kim didn't realize is that he himself, with this one knockout, would change the landscape of future MMA forever. And that brings us back to the future. 2025 was a beautiful year for MMA. We were blessed with amazing TKOs, insane back and forth fights, lots of drama, and hell, I even started this YouTube channel. But now we're entering 2026, the Paramount era. The era where Australians still get to pay full price for pay-per-views. Someone hook me up with a Paramount account. One from the USA. In all seriousness though, guys, 2026 is set to be an amazing year. We've got insane fights coming up at the very start of the year. And just like you, I've been struggling without the UFC for like 4 weeks. And quick apologies to you guys. I said I would pump out lots of videos for this period. But honestly, come to the end of the year, I was even more gassed than Reiner de Ritter when he was fighting Brendan Allen. No excuses though, we're going to come back like JDM for the welterweight belt, and we're going to be on our way to 100k subs this year. Guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to smack the shit out of the like and subscribe button and my anus, and I'll see you all very shortly for a new video. Peace out.